This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than just Peyton Manning. I'm also motivating Manning. When I say insurance, you say financial services. Insurance.
Financial services.
Insurance.
Financial services.
Now when I say nationwide, you say is both. Nationwide.
Is both.
Nationwide.
Is both.
For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.
Game day energy starts before the first snap with Chumba Casino. Whether you're killing time before kickoff or celebrating a big touchdown, Chumba Casino brings the thrill of the game right to your browser. Spin the reels, play blackjack, instant scratch-style cards, and more. It's like having a full playbook of fun at your fingertips. Sign up in seconds and score a free welcome bonus. Plus, daily login bonuses each time you return. And here's the extra point. You don't need to make a purchase to get in on the action. So whether you're going for a Hail Mary or just looking for a solid drive of entertainment, Chumba Casino gives you a chance to score some serious prizes without leaving your home turf. It's your move. Start your streak at ChumbaCasino.com today. Sponsored by VGW Group. No purchase necessary. See terms at ChumbaCasino.com. Must be over 21 and present in a state where it's legal to play.
Looking for these better days.
It is Monday, October 6th. I'm Scott Seidenberg. Here's what you need to know to make today a better day. We have no more undefeated teams in the NFL after both the Buffalo Bills and the Philadelphia Eagles suffered their first losses of the season yesterday. And it was a good day for the Trench Report, and we'll look to make it a good week for the Trench Report with the fifth game coming up tonight. We'll get to that in just a few minutes, but Mackenzie Rivers is with me here on this episode of Better Day. And Mac, let's start with the results from Sunday Night Football. The Bills losing to the New England Patriots in a game where I don't think, even with the Bills trailing for the majority of that game and late, and even in the fourth quarter trailing, I don't think anybody thought they were going to lose. And they wind up losing 23-20 after they got the score late, or they were unable to get a touchdown late, but they got the field goal to tie the game, and they gave New England plenty of time to maneuver themselves into field goal range. What did you make of the game last night, which, if you looked at the stats, maybe seems at one point was a little fluky, but towards the end of the game, it kind of all evened out, right?
Yeah, it evened out. And if you would have told me the Bills would have had 4 more first downs and 44 more first yards, and the yards per play would have been equal, I'd be like, all right, great performance by the Patriots. They probably win, but they don't cover. You add in the 2 fumbles loss and a rare Josh Allen interception. Not only an interception, but interception in the end zone. Yeah, that's the recipe for the Patriots getting this 3-point victory. Mm-hmm. I don't think it changes the power ratings that much, but I do think there's some insights we can take. One is this was a battle between 2 teams that literally hadn't played anybody. The Bills beat the Ravens, and they've had cupcakes ever since. The Patriots haven't played anybody up until this game. So maybe the Ravens weren't the team we thought they were. Either way, they were second and third easiest schedules so far. So I think we got to look at the Bills' futures and be like, wait a minute. We thought they were how much of us upgrading them to the Super Bowl favorite, which they were entering Week 5, was just everybody else falling off. The Chiefs fell off, the Eagles, who lost, but even before that hadn't been looking themselves at all. The Rams dropping 2 games. All the other contenders had kind of lost, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's just the Bills aren't any better. They're just in a little easier division, and they're just as good as these teams, but no better, and it's really a league of parity at this moment in time. And the other big takeaway I had is that Drake May's legit. Drake May might be the next Josh Allen in a couple years. Only 8 incomplete passes. He's at 74% percentage throwing the football this year. I mean, that's pretty excellent, especially when you don't have that many weapons. Stephon Diggs had his big revenge game, 146 yards. But I mean, I think Drake May, like, this is his second year, and we kind of gotten used to the cycle of Cam Ward's terrible, rookies are terrible. All right, then maybe they'll be okay, then they'll be good eventually. Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, we're good eventually. But to be a top 8 quarterback right now, which is what his stats are saying through the first half of your second year starting, I think it's pretty impressive. I think, Caleb Williams has kind of impressed a lot of people as far as where they had him, and now he's going to be like, oh, he's an above-average quarterback. Drake May has gotten a lot of praise and has even topped it this year.
Yeah, good performance from Drake May, and he has been incredible. And you can't understate how good he's been. And he showed at times last year how good he was running the football, but I think I've been more impressed with his passing ability this year. Because last year you felt, okay, he's a great runner of the football, and this year he's really showing, as you mentioned, the passing acumen. And I got to be honest, this was a tough loss for me to swallow because as someone who is heavily invested in the Patriots under 8.5 for their season win total, this was one that I needed to chalk up to a loss. I needed the Patriots to be 2-3 at this moment. And so this was a game that really stings for my futures wager, but also is very good for anybody that was high on the Patriots coming into the season as the reason why it got up so high that their win total to 8.5. So
have you seen their schedule? The 8.5 is looking precarious, my friend, because all the teams in front of them are terrible, which we knew, but maybe even worse than we expected.
Yep.
They're at the Saints next week, then at Titans, then they got the Browns, then they are home to the Falcons. They could easily run the slate on that equation. That you're looking at 7-2 at that point before it gets a little tougher.
Yep. Well, the Bills are still the Super Bowl favorites up on the FanDuel Sportsbook right now. Buffalo plus 500 to win the Super Bowl. The Eagles, your second favorite at plus 650. The Detroit Lions, the third favorite at plus 800. And that feels like the correct 1, 2, 3. Or maybe the Lions should be number 1. Or maybe it's the 49ers, Mackenzie, who are 4-1, are tied for the best
record in the league.
Are tied for the best record in the NFL and have literally looked terrible, but are still 4-1. Like it's all the injuries. They have a negative turnover margin, but they are 4-1. And when they get healthy, they'll be dangerous. So, hey, my 49ers Super Bowl ticket is looking good. So that was the Thursday night result, obviously.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of people back. George Kittle, Jennings, Ayuk. We're going to have like the best receiver core in the NFL just from returning players coming back.
Let's give it up to the Trench Report. Before we go through the rest of the games from yesterday, we have to acknowledge the Trench Report, which identified the biggest mismatches in offensive and defensive line play. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in and maybe you're following because this is your first time listening to the pod and you just found us over the weekend or you heard my spot last week with Mitch and Paulie on Follow the Money, welcome to Better Day. We are here each and every Monday through Friday. We do 2 episodes on Fridays, college football and the NFL, plus bonus episodes throughout the week at times, fantasy football stuff. Everything's on the website at betterday.com. And I updated the Trench Report last week because early in the week, and I know I put a video up on social media explaining the Trench Report, and there was a differing top consensus plays than what the final results computed. Well, that's because I updated the system. I updated everything to make sure that we had a true average between the 3 composite scores, which are the PFF grades, the ESPN win rate percentages, and the NFL Next Gen stats. And so the top 5 biggest mismatches, which I promised my experiment was going to be to play the top 5 mismatches every week in Circa Millions for the next 4 weeks, because this is a 4-week quarter contest now in the Circa Millions. Well, 5 biggest mismatches: Lions over the Cincinnati Bengals, number 1. The Lions win, the Lions covered. Final score in that game, 37-24. And the Lions, if we don't have to look at the rushing numbers for every game, but they ran for over 100 yards, and we'll get to that when we do the rushing mismatches. But for number 1, biggest mismatch, Detroit Lions, win and cover. The number 2 biggest mismatch, the Denver Broncos over the Philadelphia Eagles, an outright win as a 4-point dog. The third most lopsided mismatch here, the Jacksonville Jaguars over the Kansas City Chiefs. That game is tonight. Number 4, the Arizona Cardinals over the Tennessee Titans. Going to put a pin in that just a second. And number 5, the Washington Commanders over the Los Angeles Chargers. And the Commanders with an outright victory over LA 27-10. So 3-1, both straight up in ATS with the Jacksonville Jaguars pending tonight. The only loss, of course, the Arizona Cardinals, who fall to the Titans 22-21.
They're just outplayed. Sometimes you get outplayed.
Stop it.
Any given Sunday.
You're very funny, but this is not a time to joke, okay? This was the most disgusting loss I think I have ever witnessed watching the NFL. And that includes earlier this season, me losing money on Rams plus 3.5 with the Eagles blocking a field goal and returning it for a touchdown. But think about the thousands of people in the Circa Survivor contest that were sweating out the Arizona Cardinals money line. Think about all of the money line parlays or the teasers. And believe me, I had them both. I had the teaser. I had the spread. I had everything you could. I was involved in Survivor. They were my Survivor pick. I had the Cardinals in every which way you can have them. And they are up 21-6. And DeMarcado, the running back, Amari DeMarcado, who's a backup running back, who's a backup to a backup running back, actually,
Right.
has a breakaway 70-yard run, 71 yards, and drops the ball before he crosses the goal line. Instead of the score being 28-6, it's 21-6, and the Titans get the football back. Titans score a touchdown. They make the score 21-12. And then, if that wasn't bad enough, as the Titans are driving, Cam Ward throws an interception where the Arizona player catches the ball, falls to the ground, fumbles the ball, it gets kicked forward into the end zone, and Tyler Lockett covers it up for the Tennessee Titans for the fumble recovery touchdown. Titans win the game 22-21 on a last-second field goal. Mackenzie, just repeating what happened in that game makes me so sick to my stomach. I almost want to stop recording right now and just go throw up for a minute.
That's fair.
And then come back. I've never seen anything like this in the history of gambling on football. I've never seen. Now, I have witnessed some bad beats. I've witnessed teams where there was that one college game. I think it was Northwestern when they did the kickoff and they would pitchy woo woo, and then the other team caught it and ran it back into the end zone.
Yeah, that happens like once every 2 years.
Yeah, for the cover touchdown, right?
Yeah.
And as I mentioned, we just had the Rams, the Eagles block the kick, return it for a touchdown. We've seen bad beats. This wasn't necessarily like that type of bad beat where it was on the last play, but you had a game that was supposed to be 28-6 that instead you lose that game outright. The win percentage.
Yep.
The win percentage when DeMarcado is at the 20, the 15, the 10, the 5 is probably 99.99%.
It is. And let me give you the exact numbers. Before the play, looking at the play-by-play provided by NFL.com, according to their algorithm, which includes the Vegas line, how good are these teams, includes all that, 99% Cardinals are going to go ahead and win, up 21-6 before the 72-yard touchdown. After the play, all right, so Titans, they're down 15. They're a bad team. They're 7-point dogs. They have the ball at 20, 98%. So even after giving the ball back, you still had a 98% chance to win. But assuming you add 6 points and you take away the possession, I mean, yeah, it's astronomical, the type of loss. For the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, their average win percentage was 98%. It didn't get below 90 until 4 minutes to go in the game. It's kind of miraculous. Does it bother you that he actually did score the touchdown? Like he crossed the line. I'm 100% sure of this.
So, okay, there's actually, I kind of agree with you. Two things really bothered me. All right. The first one, and this is, again, I'm bitter. I lost a lot of money. If you count my $1,000 Survivor entry in Circus Survivor, I'm out that money too. So, like, I'm very pissed right now, okay? As you can tell. Two things bothered me about the two replays in that game that didn't get enough replay. And that play did get enough replay. The interception didn't. But let's talk about that, the touchdown first. Was it 100% conclusive to overturn a touchdown call and give the ball to the other team?
Right. On the field, it was a touchdown. I think after replay, it was a touchdown, but on the field, it was a touchdown.
Like, how many times, and this is, I tried arguing with I was out at the bar yesterday, and I'm watching it with, like, a bunch of people, and I'm like, I'm having the argument with people, and obviously, like, no one's on my side. Everyone's against me. But
people want chaos.
Yeah, I tried to flip the argument here. And I brought up that play. I said, watch when he drops the football. I said, imagine that is a quarterback that drops back to pass, but the ball gets knocked out of his hands. How many times do we see the officials say, well, the ball was in his hand and the arm was moving forward, he still had possession of the football, therefore It's going to be an incomplete pass and not a fumble. In fact, that exact situation happened yesterday in the Eagles game with the Broncos. I thought initially that Bo Nix fumbled that football. And even after watching the replay, I thought Bo Nix fumbled that football. But what did the officials say? He still had his hands on the ball. And so you can kind of determine that that's possessing the ball and his arms moving forward. Well, DeMarcado still had the ball in his hand. And yes,
his foot is on the line.
Yes.
His hand is in front of his foot, at least for a millisecond before he drops the ball.
Yes, he's starting to drop it. But it's still, like, again, I'm trying to flip the argument here. If that was a quarterback, would you say, you know something? I think the ball is kind of in his hand still. Therefore, I'm going to rule this an incomplete pass. The
NFL knew what it was doing. It was like, this is going to be a story. Everyone's going to talk about this knucklehead play. Maybe we'll get a miraculous comeback. It's just, it was bullshit. It was for TV.
Like, honestly, like, I'm looking at the play right now. Like, even though, yes, the ball is being bobbed, the ball is being
There's
loose.
still shots with the ball, his hand, touchdown.
Yes.
Like, he should be celebrated.
Like, that is a touchdown. Okay, now the other part about this, the other play, the interception. You'll never be able to convince me otherwise. If that was a wide receiver making a catch, they would rule that an incomplete pass.
Yep. For sure,
How many
you don't get
times?
the benefit of the doubt, yeah.
How many times do we see a wide receiver make a catch while stumbling to the ground and then falling down, the ball comes out, and everyone thinks it's a fumble, but then they review it and they say, you know something? He didn't complete the process of the catch. Yeah, I understand he made a football maneuver, but you're never going to be able to convince me that on that interception, if that was an offensive player catching that football, they don't call that an incomplete pass. I do not think that was an interception. I don't think it was an interception and a fumble. I think that should have been an incomplete pass. Now, could the Titans score a touchdown anyway? Sure, they could have. But I believe that was an incomplete pass.
Yeah, let's go to that moment since I have it up right here. Before the interception touchdown, with 4:39 left to go in the game, they're at 80% chance to win for the Cardinals. After they score that touchdown, goes down to 76%. It's still it's still a terrible loss. I feel like it just kept the fire alive just long enough, and that's all you need.
Yep. What an unbelievable loss. What an unbelievable loss. My goodness. I think people should lose their jobs for that loss, to be honest with you. I mean,
I said this to a friend. The fact that Cam Ward finally got a win and he doesn't look like Jamarcus Russell, he might be, somewhat of an average quarterback, came at the exact moment where that hope for Kyler Murray that we had for years has now gone away. He's still a number one overall quarterback, but I think the era of Kyler Murray's the guy we're building around. It's got to be over in Arizona.
Well, speaking of Kyler Murray, there was a ridiculous stat from yesterday in the NFL, and it had to do with Dillon Gabriel getting the start for the Cleveland Browns against the Minnesota Vikings in London, a game where the Vikings won 21-17 over the Cleveland Browns. But with Dillon Gabriel getting the start for the Cleveland Browns, Mackenzie, do you realize that every Oklahoma Sooner starting quarterback from 2015 to 2023 is now starting in the NFL. Let that sink in. Every Oklahoma Sooner starting quarterback from 2015 to 2023 is a starting quarterback in the NFL. Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams, and Dylan Gabriel.
Man, shout out to Lincoln Riley. Doing work.
But now it's not like some of them are obviously, some of them were only 1 year guys. Some of them were only, there.
Still, what other college has not only 6 but 6 like that, like know each other, that we're in the same dorms and shit?
Well, some else, no, a lot of them weren't together, but you're right. It is Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley got there in 2015. Every starting quarterback that Lincoln Riley had at Oklahoma, and even afterwards, right? Because Dylan Gabriel was there afterwards, but they all are now 6 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Baker, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Spencer Rattler, Caleb Williams, and Dylan Gabriel.
You think they beat Texas this week?
Well, Texas is in a whole world of trouble right now. I can tell you that much. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. What did you make of Dylan Gabriel's performance? Carson Wentz was Carson Wentz. 25 of 34, 236, and a touchdown. Gabriel 19 of 33 for just 190 yards. Did throw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions though for Dylan Gabriel, which you like to see against that Brian Flores defense. Don't turn the football over. I think the Browns are starting to get the results from their first round draft pick running back in Quinshon Judkins now that he's had, some time to kind of get into the flow of things. You wonder if he didn't have his off the field troubles and his contract issue. If he started week number 1, 100% full go, would the Browns be 1-4 right now? I don't know, but Judkins looked good, rushed for 110 yards. And the Browns lose 21-17, though.
Yeah, they lose, but the game did go over, and they did go over their team total. And I think I was actually more impressed with Kevin Stefanski than I was with Dylan Gabriel. I bet the Vikings, because my theory was, and I did some research on it, Brian Flores' defense, the way they blitz, is terrible news for first and second year quarterbacks without that much experience. And I looked it up, and Flores' defenses were like 19-8 ATS. Now 20-8 ATS, they get the win, but it wasn't because of the defense. I thought the way they handled it, they really did not give Dylan Gabriel any opportunity to mess up. He didn't have any drop back, see what's open type plays. He had some rollouts. He hit his first read, a lot of runs, 32 rushes for 140 yards. So I was really impressed by the Browns. Also, Justin Jefferson restakes his claim as best receiver in the NFL. He really won it for him in the end. But I don't think it's a coincidence if you look at next week, Browns are at Pittsburgh, and they were upgraded in the market. They were catching 6, and now they're only catching 4.5. This is kind of like the perfect tanking season. A lot of impressive performances, just lose at the last second. That's what you want when you're Kevin Stefanski and you're trying to turn this thing around and win some playoff games eventually.
Yeah, good point there. Let's move on. Colts blow out the Raiders 40-6. I think Geno Smith is a real issue, and you got to wonder if Pete Carroll is going to make a decision you listen, you trade for the guy, you give him the contract extension.
Speaking of Browns quarterbacks,
Yeah, but you trade for the guy, you give him an extension, but Geno Smith throwing 2 more interceptions. I know one of them wasn't his fault, it was tipped, but 2 more interceptions for Geno Smith. How much more are you going to throw this guy out here when he turns the ball over almost every other possession?
Yeah. Doesn't get much worse than leading the league by 4 interceptions. But, this has got to be a whole team kind of performance. They lost. Like, you look at week 1, they beat the Patriots. It was kind of a nip-and-tuck game. Mm-hmm. The trend lines of those 2 teams, the Patriots have gotten better every week. They make more sense. We like their quarterback more. The Raiders look like a dumpster fire at this point.
Yep. And it's hard for me to say, the Colts look incredible and they're a team that we should be considering for, Super Bowl contenders when,
I don't buy it either.
You beat the Raiders here. It's you beat the they blew out the Dolphins, who look terrible. They blew out the Titans, who look terrible. They blew out the Raiders, who look terrible. All right.
Yeah.
You escaped against the Broncos on a penalty that gave you another chance to kick a field goal, and you lost to the Rams. So
they played good teams even, and they've blown out bad teams. That's a pretty good performance. It's a pretty good way to be.
But I don't think I can power rank them as the top 3 team in the AFC right now.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, that's why we have our priors. We have our understanding of how good Daniel Jones is, and we can tweak him.
Yeah.
But we've seen years and years of Daniel Jones. We're not going to just suddenly think he's Brock Purdy all of a sudden.
Yeah. And I think, obviously you're going to find plays. You're going to find ways to take advantage of this in the market, I think, moving forward. Next, let's recap. The Giants lost to the Saints. New Orleans gets their first win of the year, 26-14, in a game where the Giants had many opportunities to take it, but Jackson Dart with a couple of bad turnovers. They fumbled the ball away as well at one point. Cam Scattaboo, there's a chance for them to score a touchdown, and instead it winds up being a picked up fumble returned the other way for a touchdown. I mean, Mac, when you just look at the swing of points and expected points on one play, that is where, a game completely flips on its head.
Yeah, that was the ball game. It's a 10-point swing, and it ended up being a 12-point game. Neither of these teams deserved to win. One of them was going to. Look at the Giants, though. They scored 2 touchdowns on their first 2 drives. Jackson Dart looks amazing. Threw for 1, ran for 1. Last week, they scored a touchdown on their opening drive. Okay, so they've scored 4 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. 3 have been on their opening drive or their second drive, and then just nothing since. That tells me they have some stuff that they like as far as what Jackson Dart can do, like drawing it up during the week. But I don't think they trust him, much like they didn't trust Dylan Gabriel for the Browns, to drop back and make those split-second decisions yet. So they're trying to kind of bridge him towards, which is why you'd want Russell Wilson to be there, ideally, if they were doing a little bit better. But they're trying to bridge him so that eventually he can be more reliable.
Yeah. The Cowboys beat the Jets 37-22. Jets scored late to make it look a little bit better. And to me, that I don't take anything away from that, because the Cowboys defense is bad. And especially when they're winning by, 30 points, like I don't expect the Cowboys defense to really fight in the fourth quarter. So the Jets scoring a couple of late to make it close and make it look like it was a decent performance, 37-22. No, this was a blowout game. Jets got embarrassed in this one. This is just, to me, not a well-prepared football team. It is just not.
Hard to argue. I'll say for the Jets, there's a lot of preseason trends as far as bringing in a veteran quarterback that's not a rookie, bringing in a tenured defensive coach that all pointed towards the under, and it is looking like 6.5 would be a miracle at this point. They kind of, when they got rid of Rodgers, they knew this was going to be a bridge season, but it's hard to make the argument that you should be the one to bring us back to the promised land when you're this disheveled week after week.
Well, they just can't mess up the draft pick now.
This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Broncos come from behind to defeat the Eagles 21-17, a play that we were on. Denver scoring 18 points in the fourth quarter to come away with this victory, and they outplayed Philadelphia. I mean, it was a very even game, but in the key moments, they outplayed the Philadelphia Eagles. What do you make of this performance, Mackenzie?
Yeah, key moments like the fourth quarter, 18-0 to pull ahead and to win. This is so similar in a lot of ways to other Eagles performances that we've seen, but this is the one that will get attention because it lost. Like the way they played against the Chiefs, the way they played against the Buccaneers last week, the way they played against the Rams until they had that miraculous comeback themselves. This is a team that is playing 500 football. And the kind of magic that brought them to the Super Bowl last year is not there. Saquon Barkley with 6 carries. Like we talked about the Trench Report last week, and this is, I think, the ideal case for what you're looking for. They ran 11 times. They did not think they were going to get much production that way. Anytime a team runs 29 times like the Broncos did with their superior offensive line versus 11, I think that's going to be a team that wins more often than not.
After the Eagles took a 17-3 lead, the Broncos had a 9-play drive but punted. The Eagles got the football back with 2 minutes to go in the third quarter, up 17-3. They went 5 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and 6 and out.
Wow.
They had the ball 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and they only got 2 first downs. That is how you lose a football game.
Yeah, and they had Jalen Hurts drop back 38 times and get sacked 6 times. They're not built that way, and they never were. So the fact that Plan A isn't working, they're the reason they're not the NFC favorites anymore, despite having as good a record as anybody.
Great case study there for the Trench Report. Panthers come from behind to defeat the Dolphins 27-24. Back and forth affair there in the fourth quarter. But this game was all about Rico Dowdle. And by the way, in the Trench Report, the Carolina Panthers over the Miami Dolphins was the number 3 ranked run blocking mismatch of the week.
Let's go.
So if you look at the run blocking mismatch, number 1, the Jacksonville Jaguars, we'll see what happens tonight. Number 2, the Texans over the Ravens, and we'll talk about Nick Chubb and Woody Marks and whatever. Number 3, the Carolina Panthers over the Miami Dolphins. And Rico Dowdle rushed 23 times for 206 yards as the Panthers beat the Dolphins 27-24. I mean, I spent all week last week, Mackenzie, talking about Chuba Hubbard.
Right.
But then once Chuba Hubbard was announced that he wasn't going to play, we had to change our focus and start singing the praises of Rico Dowdle and talk about him. I did not think he was going to go off for 200 yards. I mean, what a performance.
Yeah, you don't often get a 10-point comeback or double-digit comeback running the ball, but that's exactly what they did. 240 yards. Man, just incredible. The fact that the Dolphins have come from where they were to now where they are, I think that's going to be all she wrote for them. I don't know. Bryce Young, pretty average performance. It's not like you can bank on running for 200 yards per game. So I think this is more the Dolphins collapsing than the Panthers having something they can build on. Although you only start with a win.
Yeah. Let's talk about that Texans blowout win over the Ravens, 44-10. I mentioned this was a running mismatch game. Well, Nick Chubb ran for 61 yards. Woody Marks only 24 yards. But as a team, the Houston Texans rushed for 167 yards. So if you were just going off the team rushing stats for that mismatch, it was certainly impressive for the Houston Texans. This is, I mean, I was joking, as I mentioned, I was out watching the games with a bunch of people yesterday, and I was joking. I said, well, who's the real MVP of the NFL? Is it Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow? Because clearly, without these two guys, their teams are terrible. The only thing is, like, we've seen this Ravens defense, this is a problem. The effort level, I mean, it did not look like I was watching a Ravens game yesterday. This is not the same Ravens team. What happened to the Baltimore Ravens?
And you listen to what Kyle Hamilton said after the Chiefs game, and it sounded ominous. It's like there is something amiss. There's something broken, and we have to get back to the team that we used to be. The market still believes, for what it's worth, in a not great division, Ravens are still the favorite at -110, Steelers +110. And then obviously the Browns and Bengals are far, far away.
I don't get it. I don't get it. The Ravens or Harbaugh came out and said that he's not making any coaching changes right now, that Zach Orr, who's the defensive coordinator, he's not going anywhere.
The future former defensive coordinator of the Ravens?
Yeah, exactly. He's not going anywhere. I wonder how many weeks that's going to last, because this is one of the more pathetic performances and head-scratching performances that you'll see at home. Like Cooper Rush, we talk about this all the time when we rank backup quarterbacks. Like Cooper Rush is a very capable backup quarterback. You know, where
yeah, he was in Dallas. People get used to certain rhythms of being in a certain place. Like, I don't think he might be terrible. He might have just had that one moment where he was good in Dallas.
I think that the Ravens
looked pretty terrible. When
he did look terrible. But maybe the Ravens are better off with a guy like Snoop Huntley, with somebody that runs a very similar style offense to Lamar Jackson.
What happened to Derrick Henry? Week 1, first half, like 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Since then, he hasn't ran for more than 50. He's averaging like 3 yards a carry.
Mileage, who knows?
I think some of it is that, and some of it is, I think, not having Lamar Jackson, at least this week and some of the last week. It's really a 1-2 punch that amplified each other.
Bucks beat the Seahawks 38-35, a back and forth affair. Very exciting second half. I mean, there was the Bucks scored 25 points in the second half, and the Seahawks scored 28 points in the second half. So a very high scoring second half. This was a 13-7 game at the half that ended 38-35. And I guess all we have to do now is just whenever we watch a Bucks game, don't watch until the final 2 minutes.
Right.
Because all 4 of their wins have come in the final 2 minutes. So that's it. That's all you got to tune in. It's Baker Mayfield was made for the witching hour. Let's just say that.
They're 4-1. They're +3 in the wins column. They're +3 in the points column. They're +3 in the points differential with no wins of more than 5.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Baker throws for 379 yards and 2 touchdowns. Emeka Ibuka, 163 yards and a touchdown. He almost had a second touchdown because he got tackled down inside the 5-yard line. Up on FanDuel right now, Emeka Ibuka +130 favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year, and I don't see anybody taking that from him unless you're telling me that Jackson Dart goes on to win 7 games here for the Giants.
So
Ibuka,
who's in the conversation? Even Cam Ward obviously was the preseason favorite.
Ashton Genty. Mm-hmm.
Is he still in the running even?
He's the second favorite, but the odds are significantly in favor.
Yeah, the Raiders aren't going to win 10 games. They're not going to run the ball a lot in the second half of the season as they figure out what they're doing at quarterback.
So Ibuka +130, Genty +380, Jackson Dart +650, Tet McMillan +900, Tyler Warren +1100. Quinshon Judkins +1,300. So
is
it's
Ibuka's injury possibility the only reason why we wouldn't bet that? Because, man, I do not like those other names.
No, I mean, listen, you lost the value, but it's still a bet right now.
I think so.
It's still a bet on Emeka Ibuka, who's got 5 touchdowns already on the season. The kid's incredible. What a season he's had. Lions took care of the Bengals 37-24. Again, this is kind of a similar thing to the Jets. The Bengals scored a couple of touchdowns late to make this game look a little bit closer, but this was never in doubt here. Lions were in control the whole way. And Jake Browning did throw a couple of touchdown passes to, like I said, to make the score close. And, hey, Jamar Chase rewarded fantasy owners for the first time this season with the 2 touchdowns in this game, but 3 more interceptions for Jake Browning. And it's kind of the same thing here that I feel about Geno Smith. How much longer can the Bengals roll out Jake Browning here?
Because of the way the Ravens have fallen apart and the way that I don't think the Steelers are very good, Aaron Rodgers' numbers are not very good. Do you have to consider a Kirk Cousins signing if you're the Bengals or a Jameis Winston's trade?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, especially if I'm Zach Taylor, and I don't think I've exactly set the world on fire as far as my reputation the last couple of years.
Yes, I think
this could save his job. You got to make this a real season.
I think you have to pick up the phone and make the call. Absolutely, you have to make up. If Joe Burrow's not coming back, you have to pick up the phone. You have to make a call, and you have to say, "I need a quarterback. You got to get me a serviceable quarterback," because Jake Browning can't continue to start for this team. They're 2-3. They're not out of it. You mentioned it. The Ravens, they're falling off. The Browns are losing. The Steelers are. You can argue they should have lost every game that they played. You have to pick up the phone and make the call. Commanders beat the Chargers 27-10. Jaden Daniels returns. He wasn't 100%, but he was good enough. 15 of 26 passing, 231 yards, and a touchdown. He did rush for 39 yards. And Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, 14 carries, 111 yards, and 2 touchdowns as Washington comes from 10-0 down to win 27-10 over the Chargers, Mackenzie.
You said earlier that the greatest trench report, the case study of the trench report was Eagles-Broncos. I would say a lot of metrics would point to you that the Broncos were better or as good as the Eagles. I think this is actually where the trench report shines because the Chargers, a lot of their numbers are really good. They were the number 1 power-rated team through 3 weeks. But in the trenches, where you don't get those SportsCenter highlights, where it's harder to see just watching the tape or just watching the broadcast rather, the Commanders were a lot better team. And they looked a lot better. And Justin Herbert was running for his life the whole game.
Yeah.
Your trench report would have told us that. And 168 yards on the ground for the Commanders. So I don't downgrade Jaden Daniels and Justin Herbert. I think this had everything to do with the trenches in this one.
Yeah, that's a great point there, Mackenzie. And that will conclude our wrap-up here of the Sunday games here in week number 5 of the NFL season. Let's take a look at Monday Night Football tonight between the Chiefs and the Jaguars from Jacksonville. And this is one of the games on our Trench Report. This is the 5th game, so we are hoping this is the make or break game. I would love to go 4-1, both straight up in ATS. I'll take 4-1 ATS. That's fine. Even if the Jags lose, just cover, because I did the 5 entries in the Circa Millions. But 4-1 straight up in ATS with 3 outright dog victories would be a very good first week of this case study. And again, if you go back to last week when the Trench Report was 7-1 straight up and 6-2 ATS in the mismatches, it is on fire right now. And we'll update the data on Tuesday, tomorrow, after tonight's results and the NFL and everybody updates their stats. I'll plug in, all the new numbers, and we'll get you the Trench Report for week number 6. I'll probably release that on Wednesday once we finalize all of the data. But let's take a look at tonight's game. Up on the FanDuel Sportsbook right now, it is the Kansas City Chiefs as a 3.5-point favorite over the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the total in this game, Mackenzie, is at 45.5, as we like to do each and every primetime game. We want to cook up a same game parlay. So what are you thinking about for this game? I can tell you right off the bat that because the Jacksonville Jaguars ranked number 1 in the Trench Report's run blocking mismatches, that the first place I want to look is towards a rushing prop for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and maybe multiple rushing props for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So I present to you, Mackenzie, leg number 1, Travis Etienne over 64.5 rushing yards.
All right. I have absolutely no problem with that on its face. I do believe this Trench Report is showing some promising early returns. But let's just look at his numbers on the season, make sure everything's in line. So on the year, he's averaging 98.5 rushing yards. Wow, which is a big increase from his career average of about 60. And you said the number is 64?
64.5.
I don't mind it at all. I think the Chiefs' defense is kind of because of its slower-paced games, like against the Eagles, it's kind of looked better than it actually has been. But going back to the Chargers game, first game of the season, they look very vulnerable up the middle, this current iteration of Spagnuolo's defense. So that's a good starter.
Yeah, that's the first start right there. Yes, is going to be the ETN over. Now, I mentioned we certainly are looking at the Trench Report here, which identified the Jacksonville Jaguars as a mismatch. So if I am presenting the first leg of ETN's over rushing yardage prop here of 64.5, which, by the way, has not been adjusted really. Well, let's see. Last week it was 57.5, so it did get it. Last week, was 52.5, so it has been adjusted off of his recent performance. I'm going to present to you Mackenzie Rivers, backup running back Bayshao 210, over 20.5 rushing yards as leg number 2.
I like that. You're not going to run it for 190 yards, which most of the grade A matchups we've identified have done the last week with one guy.
So Bayshao 210, if we look at his props over the past couple of weeks, last week it was at 22.5, and he only rushed for 14 yards. The week before that, it was what was it? The week before that, it was 22.5, and he had 21. The week before that, 20.5, he rushed for 42. And in week number 1, he didn't even have a line out, and he rushed for 11 yards. But, yeah, I think we're going to go with it here. This is going to be a spot where we're going to get a little 210 prime time.
So I'm just curious. Obviously, the Trench Report's going to point to the Jaguars on the side.
Yep.
But I'm just wondering about the correlation. First of all, how much of a bump is it just to get the 2 running backs by themselves, just over their each?
That's plus 202.
All right, so I guess they're saying it is a little bit correlated. It's a little bit worse than 2 minus 110s. What about that?
But we're gonna add Jags money line.
I was thinking, but I'm curious. Let me tell me what Jags money line is and what Chiefs money line is. I don't think we're going to play Chiefs, but I'm just curious how the anti-correlation bumps it up.
So the Jags money line makes it plus 370. If it was Chiefs money line, it makes it plus 547.
Okay, so even though they're the favorite, just the odds of that happening in that scenario,
significantly anti-correlated. But here's the you know what?
So do we want money line or do we want the points with the Jags? The Chiefs tend to win by 3 points. They're the Eagles. Well, at least we thought they were.
Yeah. Well, the points don't make it do anything. It makes it go to plus 293.
Doesn't even change the first digit. That's ridiculous.
Yep.
Okay.
Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go. All right, I'll tell you what. Why don't we take out 210? Okay, and instead, Trevor Lawrence over 10.5 rushing yards. Now I think we're having fun. Here's here's the 3-leg parlay right now. Travis Etienne over 64.5 rushing yards. Trevor Lawrence over 10.5 rushing yards. And the Jacksonville Jaguars money line plus 520.
It's not crazy. It's not complicated, but it's going to get to the window. And we're going to cash 5-1. I like it.
Now, we always like to give everybody an opportunity to win a weekend in the Hamptons. So, one more leg to jack this thing up. It's got to be negatively correlated, though, so we have to look at...
I kind of like the over. I mean, the Chiefs have one data point with Worthy coming back. They scored 37 points against, admittedly, a bad defense in the Ravens. But I think their offense is kind of propped up their overall performance more than... And also the Jags defense, it's looked pretty good on the season, but they've benefited the second most points from turnovers out of any team. Only the Steelers have done more. 49 points extra that Jaguars could have given up if it wasn't for their turnovers. So I think their defense is a little overrated. And I think the Chiefs' defense is a little overrated. So everything kind of points me to the over.
Okay. Well, if we add in the over, 45.5, that gives us a 4-leg same-game parlay, courtesy of the FanDuel Sportsbook, at plus 1063.
10-1.
10 to 1. We like it. We like it a lot. That'll be our same-game parlay for Monday Night Football tonight. And, of course, we are on the Jacksonville Jaguars plus the 3.5 as the final game of our Week 5 NFL Trench Report, which is currently 3-1 straight up and ATS. All right, before we wrap things up, Mac, let's talk a little baseball because the Division Series, will resume here with the National League today and tonight. Dodgers at the Phillies, game number 2. Dodgers won game number 1. It is Blake Snell on the mound for the Dodgers. Jesus Luzardo's going for the Philadelphia Phillies. And then the Cubs are at the Brewers, with the Brewers having a 1-game-to-none lead. Shota Imanaga will go for the Cubs, and going for the Brewers is Aaron Ashby. And we'll see, what they do. Likely an opener situation there for the Milwaukee Brewers. Thoughts on this? I know yesterday was a tough day for Yankees fans as the Blue Jays hammered their way to a 13-7 victory. And the Mariners evened up their series, though, with a 3-2 win over the Tigers.
One betting thought occurred to me. So Aaron Judge has been in the crosshairs of one of those great batters that hasn't done as much or much at all in the playoffs. Well, he's batting about 500 these playoffs, but he has one double. He has one multi-base hit. I think he's thinking, I'm kind of been maligned for swinging for the fences, going for home runs in the playoffs. Let me get some singles. And so far, if you're betting his total hits, it's been much better than if you're betting his home run props. So something to consider.
Yeah, for sure. Or what I like to do is hits plus runs plus RBIs. Because somebody else can he can
give him a couple walks, someone else runs him in.
But he can get a single and then somebody drives him in. And next thing you know, you go over 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs. Or his one single could just drive in a run. Or he can get a sac fly that drives in a run. To me it's a better bet than doing the total bases, because I don't want to rely on a home run. I don't want to rely on a double. I don't want to rely on having to have 2 singles. I want to be able to cash this, in multiple ways, which obviously is why the juice is completely different on these bets, but it's something that I look for. So I think the Phillies even this thing up against the Dodgers, even though as great as Blake Snell has been, I don't think this Phillies lineup gets held down for a second consecutive game. Plus that atmosphere in Philly is just ridiculous. So I lean Philly in this game tonight, and I think the Cubs have a fighting chance here against the Brewers. If anything, I like the over in that game between the Cubs and the Brewers, which is at 8 right now. So that would be a lean for me on that. But that'll wrap things up for this episode. Once again, you can head to the website, betterdate.com, as we are going to start rolling out some even more features up on the website with NBA and hockey starting soon. Going to start flooding the website with more more written content as well. So we have the Trench Report, which is a new thing that we're starting to do every single week. I do have the fantasy football article or the fantasy football newsletter that does also get emailed out to you guys that are Better Day subscribers. So the fantasy football stuff's also going to be put up on the website every single week as we have a different fantasy football expert join us each and every week. But as I mentioned, we're going to start doing some more written content is going to be available on the website for you guys, especially with hockey and basketball starting up real soon.
Yes,
I know Mackenzie has been just absolutely locked into his power ratings, his preseason numbers on NBA teams. When do you, Mackenzie, real quick before we wrap up, when do you change your numbers from your priors to like what you're seeing on the court for these teams in the NBA? Like, how many games does it take for you to change your opinion or change your evaluation? I should say.
It is a different weight, but 365 days a year, any news that I notice, any stat that is brought to my attention can change my overall power rating. But in the NFL, it's a great example. After week 1, there was a lot of teams that changed 2.5 points in their power ratings because week 1 is a huge data point. We have no idea what these teams are like. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a 1.5, 2 point move. In the NBA, I would say the first 3 weeks of the season is very similar, where the Magic might be as good as team is in the East. They might be really good, or they might be about as good as they were last year. So I kind of have a couple teams that I think are particularly have high variance in what I consider them, but 365 days, 24/7. I'm always waiting for that one piece of data that changes my opinion a little bit.
Awesome. Well, we can't wait. Follow Mackenzie on Twitter at @MacandRivers. You can follow me at Scott's On Air. And here's hoping you make today and every day a better day.